What's coming up? U.S. President Donald Trump reiterates his claim that Ukrainian President Zelensky is a dictator for not holding elections since February 2022. U.S. Vice President JD Vance expresses his conservative views of foreign affairs at the Conservative Political Action Conference. And in our entertainment report, Music Time in Africa host Heather Maxwell highlights a rising music star who started her career at the tender age of 8. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. The fallout from U.S. President Donald Trump's comments disagreeing with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is continuing. President Trump doubled down on his claim Zelensky is a dictator because he has not held elections since the February 2022 Russian invasion. VOA's congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson has worldwide reaction.
New Russian attacks on the Ukrainian cities of Odessa and Kyiv Thursday, as Europe reacted to U.S. President Donald Trump's claims that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has not sought an end to the war and is a dictator for not holding elections.
3 years ago, one country illegally invaded another, and since then the Ukrainians have been fighting for their freedom.
Some longtime allies noting a change in the U.S. security partnership.
En quelque sorte, Europe is realizing that it cannot delegate its security to other powers. The French government stands by Ukraine as it fights for its freedom, but also for our European security.
On Capitol Hill, Trump's claims about Ukraine have drawn strong criticism from congressional Democrats.
For President Trump to demand an election before achieving some sort of ceasefire or a just and lasting peace misunderstands or misrepresents who's the aggressor and who's the victim. President Putin of Russia has never been elected in a free and fair election.
Some Republican lawmakers also pushed back on claims that Ukraine started the war with Russia, but others have joined President Trump in calling for an election in Ukraine.
Our president is right that they haven't had elections in a long time, and they are basically under martial law. That's not good. When you claim to be defending democracy, they need to practice it.
And former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, current deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, wrote on X, "If you told me just 3 months ago that these were the words of the U.S. president, I would have laughed out loud." But one analyst told VOA Trump's criticism of Zelensky clearly repeats Russia's false claims about Ukraine.
We have to see this as a move by Donald Trump to undermine the legitimacy of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and in the worst case, as Trump advocating for Russia's position.
Zelensky met with U.S. envoy to Ukraine Keith Kellogg on Thursday in Kyiv, but a planned press conference was canceled at the request of the U.S. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.
Hamas has released the bodies of 3 Israeli hostages and a 4th unidentified woman as phase 1 of the ceasefire deal with Hamas is set to expire early next month. The United States is pushing the warring parties to move forward with their second phase as Arab nations scramble to find an alternative to President Donald Trump's declaration that he will take over Gaza. White House Bureau Chief Patsy Widakuswara has this report.
4 coffins returned by Hamas Thursday contained the remains of Oded Lifshitz, who was 83 when he was abducted, and 2 young children of the Bibas family. The last, thought to hold the body of their mother Shiri Bibas, held the remains of an unidentified woman, the Israeli military said, accusing Hamas of violating an already tenuous ceasefire. Hamas has not commented. The military said it was a violation of utmost severity by Hamas, adding to Israel's agony following the terror group's October 7, 2023 attack. Dozens of hostages are still in Gaza, including Guy Gilboa Dalal. VOA spoke with his brother Gal.
All we do is for my brother. All we do is to bring him back. All we care about is seeing him again. We miss him so much.
33 hostages were released under Phase 1 of the ceasefire. The return increased pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to negotiate for the second phase. But far-right members of his coalition want to return to fighting and end Hamas. Pressure also came from Washington. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was in Israel earlier this week, pushing to secure Phase 2. Analysts say it won't be easy.
It's possible that they could agree to simply extend the first phase while they're negotiating the second phase. But getting formal agreement by both parties on exactly what the second phase will look like, I think is pretty tricky.
President Donald Trump has repeatedly said he wants to take over the Palestinian territory and rebuild it into the Riviera of the Middle East. On Thursday, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said Gaza is, quote, a hellhole.
With unexploded ordnance, with debris everywhere, with no sewage, with no water. And President Trump has put forward a plan to deal with the practical reality that is 1.8 million Gazans now truly suffering.
Arab leaders have rejected Trump's plan and are meeting in Riyadh Friday, hosted by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, whose help Trump sought for talks between the U.S. and Russia to end the war in Ukraine. Some analysts say Trump's controversial Gaza demand could be an attempt to shake the status quo.
How successful it has been remains to be seen. Thus far, the only thing we've seen come out of it really is a strong push by Egypt and to a certain extent also by the Saudi government to reconstruct Gaza, leave the Palestinian people there without removing them.
The Egyptian alternative proposal will raise up to $20 billion over 3 years from Arab and Gulf states for Gaza's reconstruction. It excludes Hamas from a Palestinian governance committee in Gaza, which the U.S.-designated terror group says it can accept. But it's unclear whether Israel or Trump can.
I haven't seen it. When I see it, I'll let you know.
Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News at the White House.
U.S. Vice President JD Vance sketched his conservative view of foreign affairs Thursday at the Conservative Political Action Conference, accompanied by foreign politicians who say they support President Trump's agenda. VOA White House correspondent Anita Powell reports from Washington.
A warning for Europe, delivered by Vice President JD Vance.
Well, look, obviously, we're going to continue to have important alliances with Europe, but I really do think the strength of those alliances is going to depend on whether we take our societies in the right direction.
Vance spoke Thursday at the annual Conservative Political Action Conference. This year's gathering drew in right-leaning European leaders from Argentina, Britain, Poland, Hungary, and Italy. Analysts say they are watching the dissolution of one of the U.S.'s most important alliances play out in real time.
I think you have to take what's going on at CPAC very, very seriously. And, you know, what we're witnessing here is a separation of America from our traditional allies in Europe, from NATO. And this is an 80-year partnership that looks like it's fracturing right now. And so I think that that's a concern for Americans. It's really a concern for Europe.
Not all Europeans disagree with the Trump administration.
President Trump is right. As it was said by my prime minister, this war has to end because it brings us nowhere. It's crazy. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people are dying.
And Diana Jovanovici-Șoșoacă, a member of European Parliament who heads a far-right party in Romania, told VOA that the Trump administration invited her. This, she said, is her first CPAC. She spoke of the stances she shares with Trump, stances that, she says, led Romania's constitutional court to ban her from that nation's 2024 presidential race.
Because I have opinions against European Union, because I have opinions against NATO with these actions of NATO to create a war and something like that. And because of my statements of liberty, and because I was against vaccination COVID, and because I was against mask, and I was the voice of Romania, as you are a voice of America, in pandemic, they told me you have unconstitutional opinions, so you cannot go to be elected.
The CPAC conference was instrumental in vaulting Trump to the top of conservative politics. He addressed the meeting during his first term. This year, he speaks on Saturday. Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
Now let's go to the annual Conservative Political Action Conference, where VOA's Philip Alexiou is following the day's activities. Hello, Phil. Who is going to be speaking today?
Hey, Esther. Glad to be here. Nice to see you. It's the third day here at CPAC, and it's as vibrant as the first and second day. And a lot going on, more speakers. We've already had the National Security Advisor, Michael Waltz, speaking earlier today. And then pretty soon we're going to hear from the Special Presidential Envoy, Richard Grenell. Richard Grenell was with the first Trump administration. And then we'll have the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins. Now, interesting, we've got the international delegations from Korea, Hungary, Israel, Australia, and Japan. It's interesting, they're quite interested in what's going on with the Trump movement, the MAGA movement, and they tend to want to see more of what's going on here with conservatism in their countries. But I happen to have a multi-award winning hip-hop artist and producer and former NFL player and Navy veteran, Mr. B. Taylor. You almost got mugged by one of your fans, I see. So step on into the picture. So what brings you here? You're a hip-hop artist, award-winning. I just introduced you, and you're here for what? What brings you here?
Moms for America. You know, I partnered with them, Kimberly Fletcher, Zach, her son, doing some great works. You know, I'm close to my parents. My mom is everything, and you know, we stood in together with what I'm doing with my One Life organization. I'm profiting what she is, and so I got a song called "We Are One, God, Family, and Country," featuring myself and Chapel Hart, country band, and J. Michael, country artist, and we shot the video that includes all the branches, the military, Coast Guard, Cutter, the VA, first responders, and the NFL that I was a part of, and it's a classic. It's called "We Are One, God, Family, Country," and that theme song is going to be the theme song for Moms for America as well.
All right, fantastic. So I'm going to assume you're a conservative, right? Obviously, am I correct?
Yeah. You know what?
And so what other parts do you play being a part here of the CPAC with the Moms for America? What else would you like people to know about you?
To know about that, and you know, President Trump's advisory team is working with me. My biggest thing is working with Secretary Hexbeth, General Tata, who's been nominated as the Undersecretary for Personnel Readiness. I'm part of the team you really utilize me for recruitment. I'm not a politics guy, but I'm about, as a Goodwill Global Ambassador, I'm about our military, our veterans, first responders, and their families, and I'm about youth of all denominations and my faith in God, with my father being a pastor and stuff. So I'm not that. I feel like the military and our veterans and troops, that's everybody's problem that they should be supporting, and our youth of all races, everyone should be inspiring our youth, and everybody should be putting God first.
There has been some talk about the young people, especially yesterday, like 20-year-olds and so on and so forth. What do you think that the young people today feel about conservatism?
I think a lot of times maybe being maybe so stuffy and not, you know, being a little bit more stricter and stuffy, but it's not that. You know, it's more of like, I feel like what I'm getting in is trying to unite people. I think you can agree to disagree, and I think that's what we got away from, you know, to agree to disagree. You know, for whatever reason, that's what makes America great. And I think instead of dividing all the time, I think we should just come together and work together. There's already enough hate in the world, and I feel like we should all have love. And if you don't agree with someone, you can still love them and what they believe in and just unify. And so that's what I'm about. I've never, like I said, I'm not a politics guy. I'm just about what my father and mother raised me in the Lord, and I'm just giving back to as I promised the Secretary of Navy and CNO when they allowed me to go try out for the NFL and music. I told them I would represent our heroes and our youth, and that's what I'm doing.
All right, fantastic. B. Taylor, thanks so much. Hip-hop artist, entrepreneur, Navy veteran.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us. And Esther, there's a lot of excitement going on here, all kinds of interesting people. It was nice to get a hold of B. Taylor here. So it'll continue on till tomorrow. Back to you.
Right, I agree. Thank you so much, Philip. Philip Alexiou reporting live from the Conservative Political Action Conference here in Washington. Rwanda on Friday is responding to the U.S. Treasury Department sanctions imposed Thursday on a Rwandan government minister and a top M23 rebel group member for their alleged roles in the Democratic Republic of Congo conflict. Rwanda's Minister of State for Regional Integration, James Kabarebe, says the sanctions by the U.S. government are, quote, unjustified and unfounded, and Rwandan Foreign Affairs Minister Olivier Nduhungirehe agrees.
We find it as an unacceptable interference in the Africa-led process. You know that there was a joint summit of the EAC and SADC in Dar es Salaam on 8th February, which came up with a pathway for a resolution of the crisis in Eastern DRC. The conclusions of this summit were endorsed by the African Union summit that was held in Addis Ababa last week. So we have a process on the table. And even as we speak, today we have a meeting of the Chief of Defense Staff of the EAC and SADC to start implementing the conclusions of Dar es Salaam. So any decision such as this kind of sanctions are interference, but they are not productive in any case. Because if sanctions could have resolved the conflict in Eastern DRC, we would have had peace in the region for many years ago.
That was Rwandan Foreign Affairs Minister Olivier Nduhungirehe. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come in our entertainment report, the latest on a multi-talented Generation Z pop star. Stay with us.
They tried to forget everything they left behind while calming their thoughts in the process. This is what women and girls try to do to cope with the mental health crisis they are enduring amid a relentless war in the Eastern DRC. On this week's episode of Our Voices, we zoom in on the effects of the brutal conflict in the Eastern DRC has on women, how they're coping, and how they are trying to ease their mental anguish. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
In other news, Ivory Coast has officially taken control of the last remaining French military base in the country. However, some 80 French troops will stay in the country to advise and train the Ivorian military, according to Tene Birahima Ouattara, the Ivorian defense minister. Ugandan opposition leader Kizza Besigye is being charged with treason in an escalation of legal trouble stemming from allegations he plotted to remove the country's longtime leader by force. Besigye sat in a wheelchair on Friday as he faced the charges in Kampala courtroom. treason charges carry the death penalty in Uganda. And French street artist Jacques One is honoring Black figures who shaped France's recent history on the mainland and overseas in the art installation. The artwork is being produced for an exhibition starting next month at the Pompidou Center in Paris. Jacques One is a Black graffiti and visual artist native of the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe, which is a French overseas department. It is day 2 of the G20 foreign ministers meeting in South Africa. It is also the first time that an African country is presiding over the international forum. Tuso Kumalo reports from Johannesburg.
The G20 foreign ministers meeting has come to a close here in South Africa, with quite a number of countries being thankful, giving praises to South Africa for holding a successful high-level meeting indeed. And of course, a lot of things discussed within these 2 days, and countries coming out saying the agenda and the issues that were discussed are really issues that the world need to hear right now.
I personally have expressed my strong support for the priorities of the South African presidency, which is also priorities of Africa, because there's been good coordination with the African Union.
On its side, South Africa says it is excited that Africa has been put on the map, and of course, as far as the geopolitical issues that have been discussed, also excited that things like the war in DRC, the war in Sudan, of course the war in Ukraine, and of course the disturbances in the Middle East and that shaky ceasefire there, saying at least there were resolutions that all parties should respect international law, all parties should respect sovereignty and the integrity of countries, so that at least there is peace. They sit down and discuss and resolve things over the table, not in the battlefield.
Reaffirm the role of the G20 as a premier forum for international economic cooperation and underscore the collective responsibility of the G20 for the effective stewardship of the global economy, fostering the conditions for sustainable, resilient, and inclusive global growth as a critical element of a broader multilateral system.
There were a number of issues also touched, especially that African countries are struggling when it comes to getting finance because they are made to pay exorbitant interest rates, saying the G20 countries saying something should be done to make sure that at least African countries, when they need finance, they can access it at a low cost, because they are already in dire need of development, of food, and hunger is just some of the things that they are battling with. So there's need for that area to be covered as well. And all the resolutions that were made today are going to be adopted in the November summit that's going to happen here in Johannesburg. But most of the countries going back happy that at least they managed to discuss and achieve what they had sought to achieve when they arrived here in Johannesburg. Tuso Kumalo for VOA News in Johannesburg.
In our entertainment report, rising star Sabrina Carpenter is taking mainstream pop to new levels. Heather Maxwell joins us now to tell us about her and why she is special. Hello, Heather.
Hi, Esther. So you want to know why she's special? Mm-hmm. She is the perfect Gen Z pop star. And although she's accomplished a huge amount already in her career, she's just now getting started. She's 25, she's beautiful, multi-talented, charming, and she's very driven. Now, her career began when she was singing like at age 8 in front of cameras at home, and then transitioned to acting on TV for Disney TV channel. Then she went back and recorded a song at age 15, and that started out her music career. Fast forward to 24, 25, now she is on the cover of Time's 100 Next magazine. She has just completed her 6th studio album and is winning Grammys.
Tell us a little more about her music. What is it like?
Okay, lyrically, she sings about self-discovery, heartache. She sings about all the things that Gen Zers, at least in America, are concerned about and relate to. Musically, it's pop. You know, it's catchy, smart pop music. Her 6th album, though, Sweet and short and sweet, won her for Best Vocal Pop Album at the Grammys that just now happened. And Esther, that album has 12 tracks, okay? But every single track has charted above top 50 on Billboard Hot 100. Every single song.
Wow.
You should ask your kids what their favorite Sabrina Carpenter song will. They will know. I guarantee they will know.
They definitely will know. Now, tell us a little more about what's her favorite album? What is it that you find outstanding?
Okay. Well, my favorite song is Please, Please, Please. I love that song. It already has 200 million views on YouTube, but just a week ago, she released a remix of Please, Please, Please with the one and only American country icon singer, Dolly Parton. Wow. So together, they're singing in a truck, in a pickup truck. It's beautiful. We can't play the music video because of copyright issues, as you know, but when you look at it, it's just beautiful to watch these two ladies. She's a Gen Z or 25. Dolly Parton is 79.
That's what I was thinking about,
a baby
the age
boomer.
gap.
But it's beautiful, it's seamless, and it just brings joy. It kind of also reminds me of African musicians who are older, Kofi Olomide or Umu Sangare or Salif Keita, who are quite old, but now they give credibility to young singers, but they also keep their career going by appearing with these young stars. So it's really, really refreshing. That's my favorite. That's my favorite song, Please, 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 with Dolly Parton.
Tell us a little more about Dolly Parton. I used to hear my brothers playing her songs way back in the days, and people would ask me, how come you know these old songs? Well, I had older brothers who played that kind of stuff. Tell us a little more about her.
Well, Dolly Parton, as I said, is 79 years old. She is a Hall of Famer in many, many different categories. She has been around and famous for just decades, and she continues. She's a beautiful singer, great songwriter, so many memorable songs. My favorite song there is Jolene. Jolene, you know that song?
Oh yeah, Jolene.
And so, but she doesn't stop, and she's beautiful, and now she's on stage with all kinds of singers, and she just keeps going.
Is she still doing new music? She's singing,
She is, but
with whatever happens with the kind of music that we hear today.
She does, but she updates, and she does a lot of appearances with these young singers like Sabrina Carpenter.
All right, Heather, that was great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Be sure to join Heather Maxwell's Africa 54 Entertainment Reports every Friday right here. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.